You're in the rant wormhole where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one is for Rusty Shackleford, who says, rant about Into the Spider-Verse and why you enjoy it. Oh, thank God. Maybe this will actually get views. I fucking loved that movie! I basically gave it a 10 out of 10 on Twitter. I mean, it's like, that was like my first impressions, just being so wowed by the just overwhelming visual presentation of the film. Like, it has techniques I've never really seen before. The color palette is just so explosively gorgeous, and the shifting of different art styles is really cool. And even more than that, just the framing and the way that it breaks the conventions of the medium and uses like a sort of multimedia approach. Like, not just that it's involving like comic book sound effects and stuff like that, but going all over the place in its style, but always where appropriate, never just for no reason. You know, like I'm a big fan of works like, say, Scott Pilgrim or Homestuck or House of Leaves. I would even say that change to fit what would be most appropriate for this moment. It's not about creating a like consistent visual style throughout the whole film, but like mirroring the emotions or the impact of each scene with whatever you could do that would make the most sense without being too jarring, you know, without taking you out of the experience. And I think that Spider-Verse does an absolutely incredible job of constantly shifting the way it's presenting things so to match, you know, whatever is most appropriate for that scene. And also just the sheer amount of energy and tension and like forward momentum that the film has kept me excited all the way through, where like there are times I almost like had to catch a breath during that movie. It's like so intense, where like there's this early point, basically from when Miles first develops his powers up through when spoiler alert, when Peter Parker dies. That whole span is like 25 minutes or so, I felt that way, of just non-stop shit happening. Non-stop action, non-stop like rollicking, freewheeling, crazy shit. And like, you have to think about when you watch these animated movies, how much thought has to go into crafting a scenario in which a character is moving through a physical space. I talked about this in like my How Hayao Miyazaki Maps the Setting video and some other stuff like that. That like they have to, I mean, sure, it's New York City, and maybe they based it entirely on like just a pure topographical map of New York, and they like literally only used buildings that really exist. But if that's not the case, they would need to know exactly where everything is relative to each other in order to have the characters move through the space in the way that they do. Like, they have to craft a setting that logically flows in animation, where none of it exists. None of it is real. You're basing it on nothing but imagination. So you have to like fully craft this, because otherwise your characters are just running through, you know, whatever each frame incidentally looks like, so to speak. So like when you've got a scene like Miles in his dorm, you know, and like the school is so well thought out, and the way he's traversing around the outside, like what windows he's passing in front of, where are the classrooms relative to his room, where is the, you know, other buildings nearby and the street, and like when he leaves that and he continues down the road, it's like you have this sense that, again, it is New York, so they could have just based it on New York directly, but like it feels like it is shot in New York and just animated. You know, it feels so realistic that you don't even second guess it. But when you have scenes of like when he gets stuck to the train and like they're dragging him all through the city, it's like it almost feels like a video game in New York, where, you know, you would have that kind of action playing out, but like in a video game, of course you're going to craft a full 3D space for the story to take place in. In an animated feature, it's like you have to plan all that, but you're only even showing the amount that you're showing. You know, you're not actually going to create the entire city just so that you can stage scenes to it. Or maybe they would. I don't even know. But like, Yeah, it was constantly impressing me. It was always just like the level of technical achievement of what was on screen. The fact that it was so sure-handed in like having these long sprawling chases, these incredibly tense action scenes that are always hitting you with comedic moments or badass things that go on, or just like good character beats. The writing's always solid, the quipping's always funny. You know, the characters are likable. The older Peter Parker, the old fat one, is probably the best Peter Parker in any of the damn movies. For my money, like he was the most interesting and entertaining, and I love to see a much older Peter Parker in one of these movies. Like Endless Jess in one of his panel casts was talking about how like he's sick of them always doing teenage Peter, because there's so many comics where he's older and there's so much more to his narrative. And you know, it played into pretty well the release of the Spider-Man PS4 game to have like, you know, which also featured like a slightly older Peter. Like you kind of had a sense of this Peter, his relationship to that one, which enhanced the story for me, having, you know, just watched my buddy Tom play that game recently. And also, you know, that game has Miles in it as well, and so this, it felt like this movie and that game are trying to like enter another phase of Spider-Man to like kind of have Miles be the younger one, so that we can tell a different story about a young Spider-Man, and then afford us the opportunity to talk about an older one. And like this movie is a great way to do that, to bridge that gap by having older Spider-Man be in the movie and be a fully fleshed out and realized character, while also telling a story about a different young Spider-Man who doesn't have the same kind of upbringing. He's not a nerdy kid who, you know, develops these powers and then has the same kind of arc. He's like a popular kid who's struggling with the fact that he has to go to a new and more intense school. You know, who's dealing with the like insane amount of responsibility being thrust on him from all sides. Who has to deal with his uncle, you know, basically trying to kill him. And well, I don't want to spoil too much shit, but like the movie also just has a lot going on. Like there's a lot of moving parts. The story evolves a lot as it goes. I was always excited. Which is shocking to me, because there's so many movies, superhero movies I'm generally not that into, and I've given up on most of them. You know, a big part of it also was the soundtrack, because it has the kind of music that I listen to in it. You know, like it was using modern music, lots of hip hop and pop from the current era, and has good taste in that music. You know, when I'm watching a movie and it's got Vince Staples and like Denzel Curry in it, and fucking an actually good Juice World song, and like which I love that. I love that there's an emo scene in the movie that uses emo rap as the back. Like I think that might be the first movie to do it. I think this might be the first movie to sincerely and successfully have a cinematic use of an emo rap song, which is the most in the moment thing you could possibly have, and they nailed it. So yeah, it was really exciting. It was, you know, kind of a time and place thing. I don't know how well, I don't know if the movie will always be a 10 out of 10 in my mind, but like seeing it as it was in the time it released was like, this is the perfect movie for right now, you know? So yeah, great fucking film. Would definitely see it again. Which I know a lot of people who've seen it like 10 times because they love it that much. So yeah, exciting. It restored my faith in not only Western animation, but also superhero movies. Like it was the best of either of those worlds that I've seen in a long time. So that was